Good evening and welcome to the State of the Liberation Movement with Secretary Martin, PhD, and Fellow of the American Society of Civil Engineers. And as always, we commence with Undaunted, beginning to the new told stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. President Biden hosted leaders continent in Washington, D.C., starting today for the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit. One of the agenda for these concerns are shared views to better ease, to reinforce commitment to democracy. Democracy does not deny a people freedom, self-determination, self-defense, or right to live. Because as it is, the three of our indicted in the U.S. have not done anything graver than this. Well, there's a whole lot of this summit, and it is interesting. We look forward to it. Last week, as regards the indictment of three of our reiterates that Amba restoration forces do not kidnap people for ransom. And note further that there is just insecurity in the territory of Ambazonia due essentially to the unorderly professional misconduct of the Yawunde's military sponsored private militias, commonly referred to as Amba Boys. Finally, the Council reminded La Republic du Cameroon, particularly, and the entire world that self-defense is a universal right, recognized and protected under international laws, which it. And today, of the interim government led by Samuel Ikome Sako, Dr. Martin Mungwa, would be talking further on that, a focus on Ambazonia, on the end to La Republic du Cameroon's drama of shedding crocodile tears. We expect the SOS for Communication IT to the aforementioned topic. Let us anticipate the President of the Republic of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikome, to address us on the U.S.-Africa Summit tomorrow, Wednesday at 9 p.m. Amba time, in a state of diverse opinion. Clarity from the focus leader, Dr. Samuel Ikome, is critically important. Well, we also storm out of Ambazonia on Undaunted tonight, so let's get straight into it. Just after headlines.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
Today, Blinken stresses on partnership to African innovators. Also today, Joe Biden calls for U.S.-Africa Summit in Washington, D.C. today. Violence won't solve the Anglophone conflict, says U.S. ambassador. The fear of President Sako increases tension. There is a tension increasing. You should find out just for news. So today, Moses says is the right option for strike turn. What do you think that? Well, let's just get into the news. All right, so let's have the news in detail. President Joe Biden is set to play host dozens of leaders in Washington this week as the White House looks to narrow a gap with Africa, one that has shown wire over years of frustration Africans' commitment to the continent. Well, in his words, it's a huge stake in the success of innovators, because when they are empowered to reach their full potential, it's good for the region, it's good for the continent, for the world, it's good for America, Blinken said. Well, he took it off sees the Biden administration is trying to broaden open partnerships for innovation in Africa. Well, fellow Ambazonians, this is where we will begin the full briefings of Andorta tonight. I am Oni Okbalan. Smart is here as always, Minister.
Good evening, Oni and fellow Ambonians. For investing in structure that can guard Africa enterprise. Second, by in rising leaders since President Obama created the Young African Leaders Initiative by fostering engagement by the U.S. companies. In the lead up to the three-day U.S. Africa Leaders Summit that begins Tuesday, today, Biden administration officials plagued their increasing concern about clouds of Russia in Africa, which is home to more than 1.3 billion people. Instead, administration officials try to put their efforts to improve with African leaders. White House officials have said that major deliverables and initiatives, diplomatic speak for big announcement, will be peppered through the meetings.
Well, the White House previewed one major summit announced on Friday, saying it would use the gathering to the support for adding the African Union member of the group of 20 nations. The summit will be the biggest international gathering in Washington since before the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. While local officials are warning residents to brace for roadblocks and intensified security as 49 invited head of state and leaders and Biden will visit the city. Well, talks are expected to center on the climate impact of Russia's invasion of Ukraine on Africa, trade and more, according to officials. By that, at a U.S. business firm, hold group meetings with host a leaders dinner at White House and take part in other sessions during.
It has several strategic advantages for the United States in terms of geography, market access, conditions, and the quality of its crude oil. By 2020, the United States took almost 25% of its crude oil needed from this region. Until recently, Africa and indeed the Gulf of Guinea was not central to the United States foreign policy objectives. However, in the Gulf, most of the world's largest oil reserves and the largest supplies of the U.S. energy needs, corroborated by the trophy of September 2001, necessitated a reappraisal of Washington's policy towards the sub-region. Given that the Gulf of Guinea already supplies about 17% of the need to meet her presence in the sub-region became imperative.
While the trade U.S. presence in the Gulf of Guinea against the backdrop of the quest for the energy security, while it also explains the impact of competition between the U.S. and her closers in the region and its grave security concerns. It suggests that collaboratory efforts by the stakeholders in the sub-region is the best way to gauge the development challenges of the era. Now, let's bring this back home. When it comes to economic interest and the trade in the sub-African region, there's a few possible diplomatic twists that can occur. Now, remember, in the world of politics, it is said that there is no permanent enemy, but then there is permanent interest. The Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia has all. It can be traded as well. As it may be difficult for her because she doesn't have her sovereignty, but yet something that is doable and practicable.
Well, if the U.S. and the international community understands that something benefit from, then we are sellable. I mean, take a look at other African countries like Nigeria and even the Gulf of Guinea we discussed. The interest is high based on what the U.S. can benefit. La République du Cameroon is notorious for AU summit, and so the country does not its strategic and unique location at the crossroads between the Francophonie and the Commonwealth, Sahel and Equatorial, and the Western and Central and Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia can take advantage of that and trade her oils and natural resources.
Well, yesterday we brought you about African in Washington, where Blinken's partnership with African innovators. Well, President Biden is hosting leaders from across the African continent in Washington, D.C. Saturday. That is 30th of December for the U.S. African leaders. It's starting from 13th to the 15th of December 2022.
Well, this is really a reflection of the UN towards sub-Saharan Africa and the Union's Agenda 2063, both of which emphasize the critical importance of the region in meeting the defining challenges. The president has invited 49 African states, as you all know, plus chair commission for this 3-day summit, really to highlight how the United States and our African partners are strengthening our and shared priorities.
It is believed that the summit will demonstrate the United States' enduring commitment to Africa, to underscore the importance of the U.S. relations and increase cooperation or shared global priorities. Africa, the future, not just the future of African people, but of the world. Africa will make the difference in tackling the most urgent challenges and seizing opportunities we all face.
Now, there's been mixed feelings to these amongst the Southern Cameroons and others. Amazonians, on one hand, feel Paul Biya, who was successfully problems in his country, should not have been invited, even though he already is invited. And the legal minds like Barrister Team and Barrister Fru, on the other hand, believe that diplomacy worked.
Well, a highlight on what's been said this African Leadership Summit will build on as concerns our shared values to be better are: 1. To foster new economic engagement, advance peace, security, and good governance, reinforce commitment to democracy, human rights, and civil society, collaboratively strengthen regional and global health security, promote food security, respond to the climate crisis, amplify diaspora ties, promote education and youth, reinforce commitment to democracy, does not deny people freedom to self-determination, self-defense, a right to leave. Because as it is, the three of us who are and have been indicted have not done in a graver than these.
As much as Joanne looks forward to working with African governments, civil society, diaspora communities, the United States, and the private sector to continue strengthening our shared visions for the U.S. Africans. As said in his own words, we here at Undaunted also look forward to the end and true intent of the stated agenda for the U.S. African Summit.
Right, let's move on to our next story. Civil rights groups as well as the international community has condemned violence as a way out to the six-county conflict in South. Well, despite all voices clamoring for a genuine dialogue with different stakeholders, La Republic de Cameroon, with her ruler dictator Paul Biya, have remained glued to the use of arms. Well, since 2007, other people of Southern Cameroon in diverse self-defense mechanism against Cameroon colonial following the word clad on the Cameroons by Paul Biya's administration.
While the colonial forces of Paul Biya have carried out uncountable fruitless military operations to wipe out the Amazonian liberation fighters, their authorities are not pressing for genuine negotiations to end conflict, nor their Supreme Commander Paul Biya giving peace talks a consideration. So wonder, is it that Paul Biya is of the fact that you can win a war against the people who are determined? It's really not possible. Has he sold his conscience to find pleasure seeing to die? It's something wondering.
Right, and the U.S. ambassador to Cameroon has said violence wouldn't solve Anglo conflict. U.S. ambassador to Cameroon, Christopher John Lamora, has said that users in the heat Anglophone region will not solve the conflict, which has been rocking the region over 5 years now. The ambassador was speaking to state media this December and used the opportunity to call on the colonial government authorities to initiate real, open, and honest dialogue. In his words, he says, I personally do not believe in violence, and the Republic, the Cameroon government should stop using so instigate more violence. He says that is best, and the United States of America is here to help stop killings and burning down.
Well, the objective of La Republic du Cameroon to destroy standing institutions in southern Cameroon is not strange to anyone, even to the United States ambassador. Any individual or group of persons who deliberately burn down schools, making persons would stop the killings, he added. He urged President of La Republic du Cameroon Biya to go for dialogue once he returned from the U.S., where he is attending the U.S. Africa Summit. Guys, I watch all the violent videos and see all the pictures, and sometimes I get emotional. The crisis has gone on for more than 4 years, with too many lives lost already, and innocent children dropping out of school. Families are less, people are scared to move freely, with others back to hometowns